When you're in college or university, you have the time, but you don't have the money. And when you graduate, you have the money, but you don't have the time.
We're from this area, but we really do understand what it is to be uncomfortable in a really substantial way.
Being a small town person who hadn't really been exposed to a lot.
I deeply wanted to go to a place that was as different as possible.
My first time on an airplane was to Australia, where I spent a semester.
London was a really big shock for me. I also lived in Japan for 3 years. I don't even know how to ask where the eggs are at the grocery store. There were so many moments of loneliness.
You talk to somebody who's had a great study abroad experience and they tell you all the highlights. You get the Instagram reel. But in that, there is all those moments of feeling uncomfortable, feeling unsure. How do you go through those moments? How do you learn? How do you grow?
It was a really transformative experience. It's definitely informed how I interact with our students and created this passion to do this work.
And I just wonder who I would have been had I not had that experience. Here on our campus, you can meet international students from around the world, which you did. You have such a cool cohort of friendships.
Right now we have 57 countries being represented on this campus. Over 11% of our population is international students. Our family has put all of this money and hope in them when they send them here. And then they feel such a responsibility to their family, and they don't know how to process that if things don't go smoothly. There just needs to be someone who can receive and care and love for them at moments of vulnerability. Not only just because they're international students, but it's also college. So much transition happens between the ages of 18 and 22.
When else would you have the opportunity to take 4 months or 1 month or 4 years to go someplace and to live someplace new and to try something new?
People believe in the work of the International Programs Office. They believe in the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And to be at a place where we all share those values in South Dakota, this is like a very magical place.
Well. Welcome back to college. When I started college back in 2016 in the US, I met some of the most amazing people who came from all corners of the globe. And this podcast is dedicated to the incredible people I shared my time with as we explore their transformations that they had during their time at college in America. Today is actually a very big milestone. Any guesses as to what we're celebrating today? This podcast is now 1 year old. In that year, we've had 23 guests who come from 13 different countries, but we are very much just getting started. Many more episodes have already been recorded, and just between you and me, I may have a plan to record a few more episodes in the not too distant future, so stay tuned. In this episode, we are breaking all the rules. We have not one, but 2 guests, and they're not even classmates of mine. In this Back to College First, we are sitting down with the Co-Directors of the IPO, the International Programs Office. These two take the lead of managing and looking after all the international students coming into Augustana, whether they are 4-year degree-seeking students like myself, international transfer students, or students on a study-away program from other countries. On the flip side, they also organise all the outbound, all the students from Augustana University studying abroad in other countries. Whew. It's a massive operation, but that alone is not what makes the IPO one of a kind. I can't stress this enough, how unusual it is to have such a rich diversity at a college that would otherwise be, pardon the phrase, more vanilla than your ice cream. That's all thanks to the IPO. With each guest today having grown up in the Midwest, we'll hear about each of their study abroad experiences and how it transformed them into the people with pure passion and care towards the work that they do today. They are the unofficial mothers of the IPO. It's time to go back to college with Erin and Heather. Erin Kane and Heather Reed, welcome back to college. Thank you so much, guys, for coming on. Co-Directors of the IPO. You've been here for many years. How many years have you been here for, Erin?
This is my 12th year.
12th year. And what about you, Heather?
7th year.
There you go. Fantastic. Because you were both here as I was incoming as a wee little freshman back in 2016. But now you're both co-directors of the IPO. And so, Erin, would you be able to describe what your title is? I've got written down here, Co-Director International Programs Study Away. So what does that all entail?
That's correct. So my main position here is to help both our faculty and our students with their courses that they take away from campus. So we use study away as our terminology because we have some domestic programs as well. So this is mostly J-term. We have some spring break, some summer classes. We are starting our first ever semester faculty-led in this coming spring to Costa Rica. And then also our students participate in a lot of different programs over semesters and summers that they do independently. So I am the person behind the scenes, making sure that they're getting the credits they need, that their courses are ready to go, and sending them off into the world.
Sending the Americans abroad. I love it.
Mostly. Some international students too.
Yeah, which is crazy because, I mean, for me, when I came here, I really just wanted the US experience. So I was more than happy to stay here and spend all my 4 years here. But for many other international students, they like to go abroad again and test their luck somewhere else and learn new things.
They say they're studying abroad while they're studying abroad.
Yeah. I think that's the best thing. Just keep stacking them. Whoops. And then for you, Heather, I've got your title here is Co-Director of International Programs, International Student Services. So what does that entail?
Well, as an international student, you are familiar with the work of International Student Services. On a really technical level, I'm in charge of managing the contract, if you will, with the federal government to allow international students to come to the U.S. on an F1 student visa. And so myself, Umaima, Kelsey, and Erin helps out as well. And then our colleagues across the street in admissions, we all manage those visas and support students so that they stay compliant with the F1 student visa on their journey here. So that's sort of the boring part of my job, the very litigious part, I guess. But the fun part of my job is
what is the fun part?
The students, of course. So since you've left and I've grown in my role, I don't know if you know, but all international students are designated immediately upon arriving as unicorns.
Are they really?
Yeah.
That's definitely new. I was not a unicorn back in the day.
Well, I'll be sure to give you a unicorn sticker because you are definitely a unicorn.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So, of course, you know that the international students are the very best students in the whole world, and definitely at Augustana. We provide support to international students, just knowing that they have trusted Augustana University as a real place in the world. You know, it's not just what that admissions counselor says. We provide that support. So whether it be when they get Social Security cards so that they can work on campus when they get here, and just being kind of like your family away from home, helping them when they get a weird tax document, a medical bill, all of those little parts of becoming a young adult is really overwhelming. And then you do it in another country. And for most of our students, that's in a second or third language. And so being that support for our students and helping them on that journey.
Excellent. Well, yeah, both of you have crazy roles and you've all experienced different sort of roles during your time at the IPO. I think, Heather, you touched on it, especially the family aspect. I think even coming back here 3.5 years later, walking into your office, Erin, and getting the warm welcome that I did, I very much felt as I walked through the door that I was back home. It felt like this is my family, and I guess you guys do a great job in sort of fostering that environment for students to actually come. And the IPO is very much a support system. And I feel like it's without that guidance and that support network, I think studying abroad could probably be a nightmare.
Yeah, it was funny. A student popped by yesterday to pick up a visa letter, and she brought a friend with her who's going on the same program, but not through Augie. So they're both traveling independently to London on a program. And she's like, I've just been telling him everything because he hasn't gotten the same type of resources at his school. So it's kind of funny, that side for us. And then when our international students, they may, transfer on for graduate work or something like that, and they still call or text or email us. They're like, well, We just know you're going to help us. And so they keep coming back, which that's what that family is. You keep coming back to your family.
I think the amount of hurdles as well as an international student, I think honestly don't know how you could do it without a program like the IPO, because there's so many steps with the visas, like all these other applications, and just getting admitted to the college as well. That by itself is a huge job. So having to do all this sort of immigration work to get from a different country to the US, it's incredibly difficult. And I just wanted to touch on you guys have both grown up in the US, but you've done lots of studying abroad. So Heather, would you be able to tell me about some of the studying abroad that you've done? Because I think that passion is very evident in both of you, that you have actually studied abroad and experienced what it is like to be an international student.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things we do when students arrive is tell them, we might look like we are very comfortable here in Sioux Falls. We're from this area, but we really do understand what it is to be uncomfortable in a really substantial way. So my first experience studying away was I did a semester in London, and I had only really I went to college in Appleton, Wisconsin, which is kind of what I would call the Sioux Falls of Wisconsin in terms of how the feel of and the way of life was. So London was a really big shock for me. I'd never navigated transportation in that way. And then, of course, Londoners just love Americans, right? And so that was the first time. And then I also lived in Japan for 3 years. And part of the reason I did that was because I don't know why, I can't really tell you why, but I deeply wanted to go to a place that was as different as possible to what I had grown up with. And there were so many moments of loneliness and so many moments of I don't even know how to ask where the eggs are at the grocery store. I had the disadvantage, at least our international students are proficient in English, whereas I certainly wasn't in Japanese. And I think giving yourself that opportunity to trust others, to trust the world, to look after you. I mean, I was so well cared for in Japan by so many people. And for me to be able to give that back to our international students, and sometimes they come in and something bad has happened to a family member at home and they need someone to talk to. There's all kinds of reasons why there just needs to be someone who can receive and care and love for them at moments of vulnerability, because there are so many of those, not only just because they're international students, but it's also college. So much transition happens between the ages of 18 and 22.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, that's amazing experience. I think Japan would have been huge culture shock as well.
For sure. I mean, the food was, I still think about some of the weird slimy things that I ate there and cringe, but I think that's the other part. You recognize people want to love and care for you, and you learn to graciously receive it no matter how weird it is. So it was a really transformative experience for me. And it's definitely informed how I interact with our students and created this passion to do this work for me.
Excellent. And what about for you, Erin?
Yeah, I've had 2 study abroad experiences as an undergrad. My first time on an airplane was to Australia, where I spent a semester.
Hey, there you go.
I know, near and dear. I love that place. And
you had a good experience there?
It was amazing. It was a small cohort. We had kind of an interesting program. We did a lot of traveling around the east side of Australia specifically. And I just wonder who I would have been had I not had that experience. Being a small town person who hadn't really been exposed to a lot outside of National Geographic magazines. So getting on that plane and just trusting myself to get there, for one, to navigate LAX and to land in Sydney, to be picked up by strangers, and then to really fully put yourself in a new place. I mean, tasting foods for the first time, driving on the other side of the road, all the things that you...
That's a tough one. And even little things, walking down the footpath. Well, in America, you'd walk on the right, but then back home in Australia, it's on the left.
And which direction you look first before you cross a road.
Yeah. Yeah, I did that. Did a few wrong turns when I was crossing the road here when I first got back to the US.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
So yeah, just giving yourself the ability to be uncomfortable. And that's what we try to tell our students going out on study abroad experiences. You talk to somebody who's had a great study abroad experience and they tell you all the highlights. You get the Instagram reel. But in that, there is all those moments of feeling uncomfortable, feeling unsure. Like, how do you go through those moments? How do you learn? How do you grow? And how do you lean into them in a way that helps you become a person that just has broader perspective, a greater understanding, can be more reflective? I mean, it's okay to experience challenges. It's good for you to do it. And hopefully with our study abroad programs that are faculty lead, it's a safe environment to have that opportunity.
Totally. Well, it sounds like you both had pretty incredible study abroad experiences. And for you, Erin, being like coordinating more of the study abroad, what is the importance of actually sending people from, a lot of people from this college are from sort of Sioux Falls or just in the South Dakota area. What is the importance of sending kids to study abroad?
For sure. Yeah, so a lot of our students that do study away are, like you said, South Dakotans, Minnesotans, Iowans, Nebraskans. And so they're getting on a plane and going to places that they've only seen in books or read about in class, and being able to experience all kinds of different sights, smells, languages, just surround themselves with things that are different from what they've seen before, been exposed to. So it just allows you to look at things in a different way. It allows you to deepen your own perspective, but also open yourself up to another person's. And so that's the great thing about meeting new people from other places. Here on our campus, you can do that. You can meet international students from around the world, which you did. You have such a cool cohort of friendships from all over the globe. We used to tease, like, if you make good friends with international students, you'll never pay for a hotel again.
I haven't paid for one hotel since I've been back in the US.
Yep, exactly. And so you're able to understand new things. Yeah, and just be aware of the world around you in a different way.
Yeah, okay. And so sticking with the study abroad topic, J-term is coming up fast and you're both frantically scrambling to get everything done before that. So Erin, what are you preparing for this upcoming J-term?
For sure. We'll have 155 students out on J-term adventures. Most of them will be with Augie faculty. And so I'm making sure all the airline tickets are done correctly. Everybody has their itineraries. Everybody's submitted a passport, like all the nuts and bolts, the behind the scenes. Making sure faculty members are ready to go. They have all their participant info, that they've met with their students, 2-3 times, answered all the questions. The registrar has them all on their courses, all those little things that when you think about going away for a bit, you're like, oh, there's a lot to that, actually. So helping it be as seamless as possible so students can have a good experience.
Terrific. Well, 155 students, did you say? That's so many to send abroad.
Yeah, it's not as many as last J-term. We were around 280 last J.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So we really like to send people abroad to give them those worldwide experiences.
Yep, absolutely.
Terrific. And what have you been up to, Heather?
I'm planning on a trip to Norway. Augustana has a long relationship with Norway as a Norwegian-founded institution, and we have many partners in Norway. We have a lot of exchange students who come to Augustana, primarily nursing. We have education, and we're looking to build different programs with different departments at Augustana as well. So going and checking on our partners, recruiting some students. And I've never been to Norway, so been a learning adventure, just figuring out who's at what campus, which campuses do what, and what partnership opportunities might be at those different places. So it's really an important part of Augustana, all of this internationalization of our curriculum, of our campus, having all of these international students on our campus. Right now we have 57 countries being represented on this campus. Over 11% of our population is international students. And so making sure that those relationships that create opportunities for international students to come to Augustana, that's really important work.
Amazing. Yeah, but J-term seems to be a very packed time.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Erin.
She'll be alongside our nursing cohort that's going out too. So she'll get to see a little bit of the study abroad work on the way. It was cool.
There's always all kinds of crossover in what Erin and I do. Yep.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because you both, co-directors, and you have sort of your own areas that you focus on, but a lot of the work is sort of just helping one another just do different bits and pieces. And I've noticed that both of you, even since I've come and sort of hung out in this office the last week, so many students just pass by, come to say hi, or they have problems or questions. And you guys, you have all your administration work that you have to do, like organizing the trips and all that sort of thing. But I mean, you guys have to put out a lot of fires and just random problems that pop up just from students who are here or students who are going to study abroad as well. And so I just wanted to ask, like, what is the most common question that people come to you that they have?
Oh my goodness. That's hard. Most
It depends on the
common.
time of year. So right now, for me, it's a lot of questions about registering for classes. Perhaps they haven't registered and they should have. Questions about changing. So we authorize work on the F1 student visa. That's part of the job of the DSO. Checking on whether they need to be reauthorized for the spring. There's just a lot of like end of year stuff that I think is hard for us to plan for. And it always happens. And we're always surprised that, oh, there's a bunch of students in our office. Again. What happened? But yeah, there's just a lot of scrambling about the transition between semesters.
I think mine is probably, what scholarships are available? Would be the most consistent question on the study away side. So we do a lot of work to try to help our students have an affordable option.
Yes.
And that means like different types of programs to different places. Study away can sometimes be a little bit more affordable if they're going to Hawaii or Florida versus, all the way to New Zealand where we've had a class before. And so just helping there be a nice balance in our portfolio of just options when it comes to majors and price points. And then also working with different ways that we can award more scholarships. So whether it be, trying to find additional funding through endowed scholarships, working towards the Center for Global Engagement, just ways that we can make this work accessible to students from everywhere.
Well, so how do you find extra funds? Because, I mean, I'd hate to see you have to turn down a student because they just simply can't afford to go abroad.
Right.
But there is obviously finances that are involved with that. So what can you actually do to or what resources can you draw upon to get some more funds to help a student out?
Yeah, for sure. So depending on the program they go on, if they go on a semester program, they do get to keep some of their Augie aid and all their outside loans and grants. So that's a little bit more of like picking the right program that fits their financial perspective. We also have a fair amount of endowed funds that are very specific to Augustana's study abroad. And so that would be any student who's studying abroad can apply for these funds. And we do 2 awards of those a year. And so they have a little bit better idea of what money they have set aside themselves, if they're budgeting, what kind of scholarship money they can have to apply towards it. And then we work with the Gilman Scholarship, which is a national scholarship. It is for U.S. students. And that one is specifically for students who have Pell Grant eligibility through their FAFSA. And we do a lot of outreach. Both myself and Umema, who works in our office, does a lot of outreach to the students that have that eligibility, helping them know how to use this scholarship, how to apply for it, also helping them craft their essays. And we have a pretty high success rate of students who apply for that, getting a sizable award. They're usually no less than $3,000.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Very important to actually be able to help people to get abroad, especially, I would say, even more so people who grew up in this area as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Here's a question for you both. What is your favorite part of working in the IPO at Augustana?
Do we say it together?
Uh-huh.
The students.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you talked already about the administrative, the paperwork, all of the behind the scenes things. It would not be worth it at all without those pop-ins, those students that come in, that email, that just stay contacted with us, that come back 3 years later and grace us with their presence. Like, that's the reason to be here.
Yeah. So is anything to add, Heather?
No, I mean, they're our why. It's a challenging job. There's a lot to it. And our students are they really are the best students. I've done other things in my life, in my career, and we get cards, we get emails, we get hugs. The amount of gratitude that our students express to us.
You showed me a Christmas card that you have under your mini tree in your office of just a student saying how grateful they were for their experience here. I
mean, and that's just one of many gifts and cards and, the gratitude is so substantial. And we don't do it for that, but it just speaks to the kind of people that we serve. And for me personally, I've invited a lot of international students into my home, and my children have had so many beautiful experiences with people of all different backgrounds and from all over the world. And I know that it has changed their lives so much. The ease that they have with diverse people, it's like normal to them. And for somebody who grew up in Sioux Falls, I had a lot of trepidation moving back here. My husband and I lived in Baltimore, which is a very diverse community. And I was pregnant with my oldest child at the time that we moved. And I was like, I don't know if I want to move back to Sioux Falls so my kids can just be surrounded by people who look just like them. And that, even in some regard, I still, it's not ideal, but working in this office has allowed me to provide different experiences, religious practices, all of those things. My kids have had the opportunity to meet those people and have relationships with them because of the IPO and the students,
The students here are amazing. And I've started this whole podcast because of that fact. Just the students are so incredible. And just the diversity of the students who come in here as well, that are willing to share their cultures and their backgrounds. And the students who I've met here, who are my classmates, they're the best friends that I'll have for the rest of my life. And I think coming back and revisiting some who are still in the US, it's just become that much more evident as well.
Yeah, I think it's a reoccurring observation we have. We have exchange students who come through this program called UGrad. So they usually come from really interesting places. We just had a student from Moldova, Laos, so countries that we don't normally get students from. But they don't pick Sioux Falls like you all, like the degree-seeking students. They get told, you're going to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So they get on Google and they're like,
what?
Why? Where? And whenever they leave, they always say, I thought, wow, I'm going to just be in the cornfield. And they leave and they're like, I met my friends from all over the world because I went to Augustana. So it is cool.
And that's why I think is the greatest superpower about this place as well, because I tell people back home, I studied in the middle of South Dakota. Like, oh, well, that couldn't have been too fun. But then I say, no, I think it's like because of that reason. And I think often I talk about with other people on the podcast, it's because there isn't that much to sightsee, that much to explore in the town, even though Falls Park is absolutely beautiful, especially this time of year with the Christmas lights up.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's because there isn't too much else to do that we really glue together and stick to one another and really spend that quality time together.
Mm-hmm. We had a student call us he started in 2013. He was one of those year exchange students. Mm. And he was getting a visa to return to the U.S. to see his 5 really good friends that were also UGrad students here at Augustana at that time. And so for you to talk about just how that bond sticks, and it sticks for life, and that you get the opportunity to come back and to see these people that meant so much to you then and still do. And that testament to true friendship where you just kind of like naturally fall back into conversations, and just your day-to-day life just seems so like, oh, you've always been here, even if you haven't.
Yeah, it's super special. The people is what makes Sioux Falls and what makes Augustana so special. And so I wanted to ask you guys, what is it about Augustana specifically? Because you could work in any other college in the US, or you could even work abroad somewhere else in another country. But what is it about Augustana that allows you to keep working here year after year?
I think in addition to the students, the faculty are so amazing too. The relationships they forge with our students here, like the type of experience you can get when I work with them on the study away side, just how much effort they put into these classes, how well they think it all through from the student perspective. It just talks to how this community is beyond the IPO. It's just part of what Augie is. Like, we know that we're small. We know that you could go elsewhere, but if you choose here, like, you're really going to get that personalized experience.
Yeah, I think, in a broader sense, community. The faculty are amazing. We do an international student survey every semester, And our students consistently talk about how impactful the faculty are, but then the broader community as well. I think about the Friendship Family Program and how dozens of families have welcomed international students into their homes. We've had Friendship Family families go to the countries that their students are from years later. And so, yeah, the community is amazing. And the other piece I would say, I haven't worked at a bigger institution or a state school, but colleagues that I know talk about how we have a lot of freedom here to direct the way we want our office, what we want to do in our office. And so we do have the liberty to decide that we're going to do something different, provide an additional service to international students that we hadn't done in the past. Even like I teach a class called Becoming an International Master Student. That class didn't exist 10 years ago. I don't think you took it.
No.
And now we teach it and the students love it and we get consistent feedback. And it's basically like continued orientation because, you have that week of fun. And then we're like, okay, good luck. Well, now they have to see us once a week and we teach them all kinds of things to help them support the administrative parts of being a person here in the U.S. And so, that didn't exist. We were like, let's do it. And now we do it. So it's pretty cool.
I think talking about that, the whole international orientation is that's, I think, the highlight for a lot of us international students because we just get to surround ourselves in that environment with all walks of life and we just get to go through the same struggle together coming to the US and we get to go on the amazing Black Hills trip. So I think that class that you were just describing, Heather, I think would be a very great and very important for a lot of people because the orientation itself is not actually what the rest of the time at college would be, just because it's so much of a highlight and just a really fun time to connect and team build with other people.
Yep. And the nice thing is they get to see each other every week. It's not just about seeing us, the IPO people, but it's seeing each other, the kids that they bonded with on that trip. And so it's a safe space for them. They're like, oh, this person knows what I'm going through in a way that the Americans in my other classes just will never understand until Erin sends them away. But that's years down the road. So yeah, it's fun that we get to keep revisiting each other all semester long.
Amazing. And so we've talked a lot about the good stuff about the jobs, but what would you guys say is the most difficult part of your role?
The world is a changing place, there's a lot happening. There's a lot of conflicts. Even this morning, the news from Prague came out. So there's just a lot to stay aware of and to make sure that our students are safe. I would say on my side with risk management, that's probably, one of the more challenging parts. COVID especially threw a wrench into all the things that we did and had to help us reevaluate the way we did things and how it looks and where we can go and what preparations we have to make. So I would say the last 3 years have been pretty challenging with lack of travel, then travel massively returning, but restrictions still in place and just trying to be mindful of keeping our students safe, whether it be, a global pandemic or it will be some kind of terrorist or crisis happening in other parts of the world. And so staying on top of all the things that are happening in all the places in the world would probably be one of the most challenging.
Yeah, well, that's a lot to stay on top of because the world is a big place and there's lots of different moving parts all the time.
Right.
It's a big job.
It is. And to help our students know how to digest that too. And so when we have something like a worldwide caution alert come out on the U.S. State Department, what does that mean? And that education sometimes goes past the student and to the parents and to the family so they can understand, how do I keep my kids safe or how are you going to keep my kids safe when they're traveling?
Yeah. And what would you say is your most difficult part of your job, Heather?
It relates to Erin's, which is that the world is a volatile place. So we have a large Ethiopian student population and, there was a conflict and many of our students lost family members, friends, loved ones. And I think, this isn't necessarily new from COVID. All of these things happen. They've been happening forever. Currency conversion. Right now, the U.S. dollar is really strong against most currencies, which is fun for Americans when they go on a trip. But for the people that I care about at work, it's terrible. And so just helping international students navigate so many things alone, like they feel alone. A lot of times they don't feel like they can tell their family what's going on here entirely. Maybe they're not doing very well academically, and that's a new and scary experience for them. And they don't want to tell their family, you know what, I'm getting all C's and D's in America, when their family has put all of this money and hope in them when they send them here. And so it's just that young person being alone on this journey, in many cases being the hope of their family, and so much, their family has so much energy that they've put into this young person, and they feel such a responsibility to their family, and they don't know how to process that if things don't go smoothly. And then conversely, what if stuff happens back home and they don't know how to process that because they're not with their loved ones to process those losses, those sadnesses. So yeah, the distance really.
They almost step in as, well, both of you sort of as mother or parent figures for a lot of the students as that sort of support system.
The co-moms.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Now, obviously, we're at a college, and for a student like myself, well, past student, I should say, but we would get graded all the time with A, B's, C's, and D's, even E's and F's, maybe. Hopefully not too many of them. But I was curious to know for both of you what your letter grade would be just for your overall Augie experience working here for all the number of years that you've been working here. We get to boil it down into a single letter grade.
Yikes.
I'm like, can I have different classes?
Yeah, right.
Categories of grades?
That's a good way of thinking of it, because you almost could section it out into different classes.
I kind of want to say B plus, A minus.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely towards the top.
Yes.
I would say just having been here for a while, watching the growth both in the international students that have come here, the numbers, the way offices have kind of evolved in how they take care of international students. You know, initially when I started, it was a lot of your students, but now it does feel a lot more like our students. When they're coming to talk with the International Programs Office about different things. I mean, our faculty are amazing on the study away side, and just the amount of creativity they put into even that year where we couldn't go anywhere. We had a professor put together a whole class to Alaska because we could go there. And so just watching people, you know, take a really hard situation and turn it into an opportunity. And I think Augie provides that ability to do. Like, you can make this experience what you want of it. You don't have to be, you know, in these boxes of policies and procedures and things as much as you might have to at a bigger institution or a state school, perhaps, that has a little bit more specific funding requirements. I mean, we have the only DE&I office in the state of South Dakota.
What's the DE&I?
Well, let's work with diversity, equity, inclusion.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, we have so much more domestic diversity now than we did. And just to see the different types of people that are on our campus and the amazing things that they're doing, I think we're trending A minus.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting when Erin and I stepped into the co-director role in September, the amount of people, whether it be, you know, a support staff person that we've interacted with a lot in the business office, or, you know, a dean or a provost, or it doesn't really matter the level of the person, the amount of support that people came to us and said, what can we do to help you to keep doing great work in the IPO? People believe in the work of the International Programs Office. They believe in the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And to be at a place where we all share those values, especially for me, like in South Dakota, to me, this is like a very magical place in Sioux Falls where I can be my authentic self and not really worry about how it's going to be perceived by others, because everyone here values diversity. They value international experiences and getting out of your comfort zone. For the most part, this is a safe campus and community for those things. So yeah, trending toward A minus.
So are there any things that would maybe just boost it up even more?
A bigger budget.
Yeah. What would you do? What would you do with a bigger budget?
Oh, I mean, a lot of it would go into student resources. I think the things that we could provide for our students, whether it be better transportation or more scholarships or research opportunities, just the ways that we could bolster what we're kind of shoestringing on right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can never go wrong with a bigger budget.
Right.
Anything else that could help pull it up to A plus?
Mandatory international visits for all of us every 6 months.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah, work away.
Yeah.
Do some remote work in another country.
Exactly.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Okay, excellent. And so if there is something that you would say to, I'll start with Heather for this one. What is something that you would say to an international student who is thinking about studying in the US at Augustana University?
Specifically at Augustana, right?
Yeah.
You'll be cared for. You will be loved. You'll have a family away from home. You'll make the best friends from all over the world. And trust that this will be a good experience, that you've chosen a school that maybe it doesn't look as big and flashy as some other institutions, but it is exactly the reason, that lack of flashiness, those small classrooms, those are the reasons you will succeed, you will excel, you will have opportunities that your professors cultivate just for you as an individual human being that will propel you to whatever the biggest dreams you might create while you're here.
And I would totally agree with that, having just been a student for 4 years prior. I think maybe as I was just doing research online, there's only so many pictures you can look at to get an idea of what a place is like. And I ultimately just made the jump because there was an awesome basketball program here.
Yeah.
That was for me what I just decided to leap into. But actually spending the time here and studying through in the smaller classes and just that intimate community that Augustana offers, I think that's been like why I am so passionate about sharing what my college experience was like and all the people that sort of encompass that as well. Because I think it was just like it was a time of my life coming here. And I think it's hard looking on the outside looking in if it would actually be a right fit. So I think it's really important that we sort of try and communicate that because I think it is a fantastic place.
I mean, you doing this and your advocacy of Augustana many years later is a testament to, the marketing pitch that I might give. It's real. And I'm really not.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to verify like that is 100% true. That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah. And I mean, we joke in the IPO, like we're sort of anti-American consumerism. So like we're the last people who are going to sell you a product that's going to break in a month. I mean, if we're telling you it's good, we mean it.
Yeah. I totally agree with you with that one. And for you, Erin, we're going to talk a little bit more on the study abroad. So if there's something that you could say to a student who is maybe at Augustana or even just domestically in the US, what advice would you give them about maybe thinking about studying abroad?
Absolutely. So I've heard this said by a few different people, and it's very true. When you're in college or university, you have the time, but you don't have the money. And when you graduate, you have the money, but you don't have the time. And it's to travel. It's to get out of your kind of ordinary routine. Like when else would you have the opportunity to take 4 months or 1 month or 4 years to go someplace and to live someplace new and to try something new? So take the opportunity to do that. Whether you're here at Augustana, you'll have plenty of options. I mean, we have over 50 faculty that'll be telling you, come on this course with me. I'm leaving in January 2025 and pitching their individual programs, or walking into the Commons and being able to talk to students from 50 different countries. I mean, the opportunity is right here. It's waiting for you, especially as a college student. Just take it. Don't be afraid. And it's okay to be afraid. Just lean into it and do it.
I'm a huge advocate for travel as well, like really just jumping in. I think especially now since I have graduated and I am just into full-time work, trying to carve out the time to actually travel as well is a hard thing to do, but I think it's always worth it. And I mean, this trip back here has been totally worth it. And so I really thank you guys for taking the time to come on the podcast. Thank you for coming back to college with me.
Thanks for coming back to college for us. It's been so great to see you.
Oh, it's been amazing.
It's been a wonderful treat to have you back at Augustana, so thanks for taking the time with us.